Hi all. I hope you guys have written today's answers. And as you know, that our topic for today was agriculture from GS3. In case you guys have not written it, please write it ASAP, pause the video, go to the Telegram channel of Collector Babu, or you can even find the question in the description box and write the answer and then compare it. You can get it evaluated on the website of Collector Babu, and please utilize this opportunity that you have now. So let us go and have a look at the questions for today. And I'm sharing my screen and hopefully it is visible. Wait. Okay, so yes, today we had 3 questions on agriculture. One about millets, the other about upstream and downstream challenges, and the third one about micro irrigation. All of them are very important topics when it comes to dealing with agriculture question in GS3. There's a very basic format as to how to write GS3 questions. First, we would write what is asked, like the significance, etc. Then we'll play out some challenges. Third would be recommendations. Fourth, we'll conclude. We can conclude by tying the whole question to a wider Government of India scheme, or what else can we do? We can tie it to SDG, or these are the two major ways how we conclude in GS3 questions. Okay. The first is a fairly simple question, a direct, straightforward question about explain the role of millets for ensuring health and nutritional security in India. What will you be doing here? Firstly, you can give a brief into what millets are, or you can talk about 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Or what can you do? You can talk about various millets which are there. You can talk about them being Shri Anna or any government scheme related to millets promotion. Okay, then we'll make a map. We'll make a map of India and we'll label some parts. Like when after introduction, we'll make a map of India, we'll label some parts like which area, which millet is grown most. For example, you can mark like in the Odisha region, ragi is popular, or you'll talk about Rajasthan, jowar, bajra, maize, MP, Karnataka region. Okay, so you'll mark some maize there. Sorry, you'll mark some millets there. Okay, and after that, you'll just divide the question in 2 parts, which is A, the role of millets in ensuring health, because the question is ensuring health and then nutritional security. So, what's the role of millets in ensuring health? Very simple. Like everybody knows about the low glycemic index, okay, which helps in controlling diabetes, managing blood sugar level, etc. Okay, we'll talk about this managing the low glycemic index. We'll talk about how it is rich in fiber, which helps in digestion, which helps in lowering cholesterol level, or it also helps in weight management. How? By providing because it has high satiety index, which means that it keeps one full for longer. Okay, so it reduces the hunger pangs. We'll talk about the gluten-free nature, especially for people with the gluten sensitivity or celiac disease, etc. Okay, then we'll talk about bone health. Millets like ragi, etc. They're rich in calcium, vitamin D, which are important for bone health. Then the second part comes about nutritional security. So, because millets are can help augment government schemes like NFSA, etc., it will help reduce both macronutrient hunger and micronutrient hunger. Okay, or the hidden hunger, because it not just fills your stomach but also provides some important vitamin and minerals necessary for sustaining. Yeah, we'll also talk about the drought resistant nature of the crop, especially in the arid and semi-arid region, which even has like plethora of other benefits like augmenting farmers' income or even catering to fodder for animals. Then you'll talk about it requires less water and chemical inputs, okay, which makes it far more affordable. And then you'll talk about addressing hidden hunger, which can be done through biofortification. Then we'll talk about it has longer shelf life and it will help in reducing wastage, etc. Now you can talk about some challenges in millet promotion, or what you can do is just straight out write some recommendation that will help. You can talk about Odisha's Ragi mission, where the government of Odisha, they distribute ragi laddus among pregnant and lactating women. Okay, or you might find the millet related scheme with the state government. Odisha is doing very good, so that's why I'm taking the name of Odisha many times. Okay, you'll talk about how it can be integrated into midday meal program. Okay, or in the distribution, the PDS system, the public distribution system, or packaging and branding millet as superfood, or Shri Anna, Nutri cereals. Okay, and that would be some of the recommendations how we can promote millet in the diet of common Indians, or also we can export it, which will be beneficial for both health and nutritional security. So we can then just conclude by saying, if you're not written 2023 being the International Year of Millets, then you could just write it there. But in the conclusion part, but I guess we are far ahead of 2023, so we don't need to reiterate it again and again. We can either just conclude it in a summary form, like it will help in addressing malnutrition and food security sustainably, or you can talk about how millet would help us in achieving certain sustainable development goal, for example of addressing no poverty, no hunger. Okay, it in fact even promoting food industry. Okay, so food processing industries. So the millet answer is complete. Let's move on to the second question, which is what are the main bottlenecks in the upstream and downstream process of marketing of agricultural products in India? Okay, so what will we do here? We'll do two things. Firstly, we'll define what is upstream and what is downstream. Okay. So upstream challenges would be about how to procure raw materials required for production. Okay. And the downstream would be like how to sell it or how to process it, etc. We'll just define it in brief format. And then we'll talk about how India's agricultural marketing, it suffers from many inefficiencies in production, storage, distribution, etc. along the whole supply chain network. So then we can just divide and talk about the bottlenecks in upstream and then the bottlenecks in downstream, the exact word that is being used in the question. First, what will we do? We'll talk about fragmented land holding. Okay, you'll talk about unequal access to quality inputs. You'll talk about limited credit availability. Like in the agricultural section, these are some of the common challenges we used to write when we are talking about the challenge faced in Indian agriculture. We'll talk about obviously lack of cold storage, harvest, post harvest losses, dependence on monsoon. Okay, these are some of the primary bottlenecks in the upstream process. For that, you will get plenty of data from NABARD report. You will also get from Eco Survey, so you can get your data from there. Let's go to the second part, which is bottlenecks in the downstream process. So what is downstream? Like once the crop has, uh, been harvested. After being harvested, it has to be sold. It has to be marketed. Okay, like to market that produce, what are the challenges that farmers face? Those are called downstream processes. The challenges in a downstream process. Okay, so the first most important challenge that is faced is the dominance of intermediaries, middlemen in the farmer marketing segment, share of APMC, or the mandatory nature that first produce has to be sold in APMC only, that reduces farmers share and farmers profitability. Then delay in getting the payment, that would be another issue. Poor road transport connectivity. Okay, there are various archaic acts like Essential Commodities Act, which creates hindrances in private participation through warehouse construction or through developing cold storage networks. Okay. Then you can also talk about how tough competition is faced from the exports by various other countries. For example, basmati from Pakistan is coming up as a challenge for Indian farmers to export and market their produce in European markets because the Pakistan basmati is giving tough competition. Similarly, would be the case with the dairy products from New Zealand. Okay, and you will find plenty of the examples. Okay, then like jute from Bangladesh. What else can we write? We'll talk about non-remunerative price. Okay, or like MSP creating false price signaling in the market. So these are some of the downstream challenges. So what will we write now? Because already we have dealt with the challenges, then we need to mandatorily give certain recommendation as to how to deal with those challenges. Okay. So like the most important is this has been suggested by Ashok Dalwai committee and even by Prime Minister himself, which is formation of farmer produce organization. Like more than 10,000 farmer produce organization has to be made. Okay, so as to provide better bargaining power as well as market access to farmers. Then talk about strengthening the ENAM network. You can also talk about calling for private sector participation in agriculture, for example contract farming. Okay, then you will talk about providing improving logistical challenges, for example developing cold storage network or krishi rail, krishi udan scheme, etc. So you can just, and in the end you can just write about some of the government schemes in this regard. Okay, like agricultural infrastructure fund, or you can talk about providing credit to farmer, PM Kisan, etc. So, and how this will help in overcoming some of the challenges that farmer face in order to market their produce. Okay, you'll get data again from NABARD and from EcoSurvey. Even Niti Aayog gives out some of the data which you can look at and use the most recent data. You'll get some other data from budget itself. So use the data when you are writing your answer, because merely writing down points would not fetch you marks. You have to substantiate it why you are saying that. Okay, what are the data to back your claims? So let's go on to the third and the last question for today, which is how and to what extent would micro irrigation help in solving India's water crisis? So, in this question, what you can do is you can just make a pie chart. Okay, you will make a pie chart of the. See, there are two things which I'll suggest you to do in this question. First is make a pie chart of the share of various irrigation measures used. For example, you will talk about around 46% is dependent on tanks. Wells, tube wells. Okay. Then you will talk about tanks. Then you will talk about canals. What is the percentage? You'll get it, and you may just make a pie chart, and like very small percentage of agriculture of the farmers are dependent on micro irrigation or are even exploring this opportunity. Okay, then what else? There's one more graph which you can make in the water crisis question, which is to make this graph of declining water level per capita availability of water. Okay, for example by 2050 India will find formally head in the water stress region because the per capita availability will be less than 1140 cubic meter per person. Okay, and then you can talk about how in 1950s it was around 6000 cubic meter per person. You'll get that graph if you'll just search on Google to find the data on water crisis. Okay, also in this question itself you can talk about Falkenmark water stress index, or you can talk about how hidden um, hidden export of water takes place. For example, just to produce 1 ton of sugar, more than 10,000 ton of water is being used in the irrigation itself. But if we use micro irrigation in such cases, it will help address that problem itself. Okay. So, what extent would micro irrigation help in solving the problem? Like one which I have already talked about, like the hidden export of water we do. Okay. Then what else will we talk about? We'll talk about how like how it actually promote water use efficiency as compared to the traditional method. You'll also talk about lower energy consumption because constant 24/7 water pumping also wastes electricity. Okay. And then enhanced fertilizer efficacy through fertigation, and also it will help mitigate challenges of soil erosion or the salinity issue, etc. Fine. So, what are the challenges then which are posed by micro irrigation, or the challenges in adoption of micro irrigation in context of India? Firstly, the high initial investment, the sprinklers, the drip pipes, etc. It's very costly for farmers, especially given that there's a fragmented nature of land holding. So, it would be very difficult for farmers to purchase it upfront. Paying a huge investing on. Okay. And then poor awareness and technical knowledge. Okay. You'll talk about there's a lack of reliable power supply, which again discourages people to go for drip irrigation, etc. And then there is a very high maintenance cost and inadequate penetration of government scheme. Okay. So, what are the recommendations for micro irrigation? Here you can talk about committees like Mihir Shah Committee, and you can talk about government scheme of per drop more crop, Krishi Sinchai Yojana, Har Khet Ko Pani, etc., etc., etc. Okay. You'll talk about promoting solar pumps so as to ensure sustainable energy supply. And you can say that PM Kusum is a scheme in this regard. You will talk about training and extension services to program farmers so that they adopt these technologies and encouraging private sector involvement. Thus, we'll just say we'll connect this micro irrigation to Sustainable Development Goal 6, okay, of uh, clean water availability for all, okay, and tackling water stress. So you can just say micro irrigation has the potential to contribute to addressing India's water crisis. Okay. So this was a very simple session where we talked about what are we supposed to write in the economics question. So I hope you guys have understood what you were supposed to write. And in case you wrote the answer and did not get it evaluated on Collector Babu, go get it evaluated. In case you did not write, then write it and get it evaluated. And if you don't want, then just watch the video, I guess. Okay. Take care. Keep writing. Bye bye.